We've all heard them, those stories that make the hairs on your arms stand up. Tonight, we've gathered a collection of chilling tales. These are first-hand accounts of paranormal encounters, paired with the local legends that have haunted these places for generations. So, turn off the lights and prepare to hear from those who've seen what's on the other side. But before we dive in, a quick thought. If you have a story of your own, some unexplained event that stayed with you, think about sharing it with us. This community is built on these experiences, and your story might just be the one we feature next. Now, let's begin. The Curse of the Lemp Dynasty. Not all ghosts are anonymous whispers in the dark. Some are tied to names that once commanded empires. Names etched into a city's history, only to be ultimately defined by tragedy. This is the story of the Lemp family of St. Louis, Missouri, a tale of vast fortune, staggering loss, and a haunting so profound it's become inseparable from the family's legacy. The story starts like a classic American dream. German immigrant Johann Adam Lemp arrived in St. Louis and started brewing lager beer. His timing was perfect. The city was thirsty, and the Lemp brewery grew exponentially. His son, William J. Lemp Sr., took over and transformed the family business into a titan of industry. By the 1870s, the Lemp Brewery was the largest in St. Louis and a leading regional brewery of its era. The family's wealth was unimaginable, and they showed it off, most notably with a grand residence on Demenil Place, a home that is often described today as a 30-plus room or specifically 33-room mansion. And this is where the American dream shatters. The family's downward spiral seemed to begin with the death of Frederick Lemp, William Sr.'s favorite son and heir apparent, under mysterious health-related circumstances in 1901. William was reportedly inconsolable. Grief consumed him. On the morning of the 13th of February 1904, inside a bedroom of the very mansion his success had built, William J. Lemp Sr. died by suicide. It was a shocking end for the king of St. Louis beer, but it was only the first chapter of the curse. The family's misfortunes escalated. The biggest blow came with Prohibition. While the 18th Amendment was ratified in 1919, national prohibition took effect in January 1920, effectively destroying their beer business. The massive brewery, once the lifeblood of the family, was eventually shut down. The empire crumbled. In 1920, Elsa Lemp died from a gunshot wound. Her death was officially ruled a suicide, though researchers and authors have since noted anomalies in the case, making it a subject of speculation and controversy. Then, in 1922, with the brewery sold for a fraction of its worth, William Billy Lemp Jr., who had struggled to save the business, followed his father's tragic path in the same mansion. The litany of death continued, culminating in 1949 when Charles Lemp, another of William Sr.'s sons, ended his own life in the mansion, leaving a stark note that said only, "In case I am found dead, blame it on no one." The aftermath is a haunting that lingers. The Lemp Mansion is now widely considered one of the most haunted places in America, at least in ghost tour lore and paranormal circles. The family, it's said, never left. Tour guides and visitors share reports of specific ghosts in their former spaces. William Sr. is said to still wander the halls, a sorrowful patriarch. Billy Lemp Jr., a partier in life, is reportedly a more mischievous spirit, with people claiming to hear his laughter or see glasses fly from the bar. And then here's the legend of the monkey-face boy. This widely recognized but unproven local rumor speaks of an alleged illegitimate son of Billy Lemp Jr., supposedly born with Down syndrome, who was hidden in the mansion's attic his entire life. No official records confirm his existence, yet the story persists, and his playful but lonely spirit is one of the most frequently reported apparitions. The mansion is a site of constant paranormal claims, from voices and footsteps to the sensation of being touched or watched. For the thousands who visit each year, the mansion isn't just a historical landmark. It's a place where the immense weight of a family's tragedy can still be felt, a story of an American dream that curdled into a multi-generational nightmare. The Boy in the Wall. Some stories get told so often, in so many different ways, they become part of our collective nightmare, a modern urban legend. The names and towns change, but the terrifying heart of the story always beats the same. One of the most persistent of these involves a young couple, let's call them Clara and Tom, and the dream house that became their nightmare. They'd found the perfect place. A large, slightly neglected home from the 1920s, with good bones and a price they could just barely manage. It was a fixer-upper, but they were young and full of energy and plans. For the first few weeks, they were blissfully exhausted, painting walls, sanding floors, and imagining the life they build there. The house was quiet, filled only with the sounds of their own work and laughter. The strangeness, as it so often does, started small. It began with a sound, so faint they almost missed it. They brushed it off as the house settling, or maybe the wind. It was the sound of a child crying. They'd hear it late at night, a soft, muffled sobbing that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere all at once. They checked yard, the neighbors' houses, but found nothing. The sound was always distant, yet it felt chillingly close. Soon, the phenomenon found a home. The sound seemed strongest in a small, oddly shaped room on the second floor, the one they'd planned to use as a nursery. The room was always cold, a deep, penetrating chill that no amount of heat could touch. Clara started avoiding it completely, saying the air in there felt heavy, full of sorrow. Tom, ever the rational one, spent an afternoon in the room trying to find a draft, some logical reason for the cold. He found nothing, but he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, of a profound sadness pressing in on him. The crying grew more distinct. It wasn't just the sound anymore. It was a presence. They would hear it coming directly from one of the nursery walls, the desperate, heartbreaking wail of a small child. It all came to a head on one tense, sleepless night. The crying from the wall was louder than ever, almost frantic. Driven by a mix of fear and a strange, protective pity, Tom grabbed a sledgehammer from the garage. Clara begged him to stop, to just leave the house, but he wouldn't. He felt an overwhelming conviction that something was terribly wrong inside that wall. With a few powerful swings, the plaster cracked and crumbled. Prying away the wooden lath, they uncovered a dark, hollow space. And inside was the source of the crying, the cold, the house's deep sorrow. It was the skeleton of a small child entombed within the wall decades ago. This story, of course, exists as a chilling piece of folklore. It's a cautionary tale, whispered and retold, a narrative about the terrible secrets old houses can keep, and the echoes of pain that can cry out across generations, demanding to be heard. As far as anyone can tell, there is no single documented case that matches this horrifying story in public records. It's a powerful narrative motif, not a verified event, that speaks to our deepest fears about what could be hiding just out of sight. The Night Watch. Hospitals are places of transition, of life and death, joy and grief. They run 24/7, their halls humming with a constant, quiet energy. And among those who walk these halls at night, the nurses, the doctors, the orderlies, there is a whole body of folklore, stories passed in hushed tones during late-night breaks. These are the hospital's own ghost stories. This particular story is a representative example of that folklore, and it centers on a nurse we'll call Marco. Marco was a seasoned pro, pragmatic and unflappable. He worked the night shift, a time when the hospital settles into a different rhythm. His routine was his anchor: rounds, charting, comforting sleepless patients. It all started with a small, everyday annoyance. The call light for room 308 went on. Sighing, Marco headed down the hall. The light was pulsing silently above the door. He knocked gently before entering. The room was empty. The bed was freshly made, the surfaces wiped down. It had been discharged and cleaned that afternoon. Figuring it was an electrical glitch, he reset the light at the nursing station. But the next night, it happened again. The light for room 308, still empty, blinked on. And the night after that. It became a nightly ritual, always around 3 a.m., the witching hour. Marco had maintenance check the wiring twice. They found nothing. He started to feel a prickle of unease passing the dark doorway. He mentioned it to a senior nurse, Carol, who'd been on that floor for 30 years. She just gave him a knowing, weary look. "Oh," she said softly, That's just Eleanor. She gets a bit lonely this time of night. Just pop your head in, tell her you'll be back in a minute, and reset the light. She'll be fine." Carol then told him the story attached to room 308. Years ago, a sweet elderly woman named Eleanor had spent her final weeks in that room. She rarely asked for anything, but she was terrified of being alone, especially at night. Her one request was for the nurses to check on her frequently. She passed away peacefully one night, but according to the story, her lonely spirit remained, her fear of being forgotten manifesting in that phantom call light. That night, when the light for room 308 inevitably came on, Marco took a deep breath. His logical mind was screaming, but the weight of the nightly ritual of Carol's story was heavier. He walked to the door and, instead of just resetting the light, pushed it open a crack. He didn't see anything, but the air inside felt different. Not cold, but thick with a kind of expectant silence. He cleared his throat. "Hello, Eleanor," he whispered into the empty room. "Everything okay? I am a little busy right now, but I'll be back to check on you in a bit." He closed the door, went back to the nursing station, and reset the light. For the first time in weeks, the light for room 308 stayed off for the rest of his shift. From then on, it became part of Marco's routine. He treated Eleanor like any other patient. He'd answer the call, offer a few kind words into the empty room, and promise to return. The story, of course, has no institutional records to back it up, but it persists as a powerful piece of folklore among hospital staff, a shared understanding that some duties of care extend beyond the veil of life and death.